Hi everyone, it's Ali and welcome back to my YouTube channel for the Pear Blossom Press and Catherine Pooler collab. And also hope you're enjoying the hop and that you really enjoy all the cards that we have for you. So my card is this wonderful, obviously light up card, and it was so much fun to make and really quite easy. So the easy part is using the Pear Blossom Press light. So there's the easy lights there and also the halo lights with the 4 lights around that circle. And they all come with the batteries that are required to make them work as well. This is the Bright Days stamp set from Catherine Pooler, which is a really cute little set. I love those globe images and the dies as well. And also 3 of the Catherine Pooler inks, Aquatini, Fiesta Blue and Serenade, which are some of my favourite colours of all time. So I'm going to start with a piece of watercolour paper and a piece of acetate, and I'm just going to use the smooshing technique, really technical term there, where you just put some ink on the acetate, spray it with water and then smoosh it onto the watercolour paper in random kind of blotches. So just a light spray of water, I'm flipping it over and then just putting it on the watercolour paper. I'm going to dry in between my applications because I wanted to get quite a splotchy look. If you don't dry off between your smooshing, the colours tend to blend a lot more together and you get a much smoother look, but I wanted that blotchy kind of spotty look. So I made sure I dried it between all of my applications. So that's the Serenade. Then the Fiesta Blue, so again just going in, smooshing it, drying off in between and then doing another little smoosh again. You can add as much or as little ink as you like with this technique, and I just love the randomness of it. And then the last colour, just again smooshing with a bit of water. I didn't have quite enough water, so I just mixed it a little bit with my finger, dried it off and then did a little bit more smooshing. One of my favourite techniques to create backgrounds is this one, and it's just a lot of fun. I like the randomness of it. Next I grabbed some of my Heffy Doodle stitch circles, just one to fit the halo lights and another couple of sizes, and then I'm going to stamp out all of my globe images. I wasn't really sure which ones I wanted to use, so I stamped all of them, or most of them, and I used my Ink on 3 blackout ink as well, which is Copic friendly, and I stamped a few of the wires that go with them too. And with my dies, I often keep all of my dies together so I don't lose any, and I cut out my images and place them behind my dies and then run them through my die cutting machine like so that all my dies can stay snipped together. Sometimes I snip my dies apart, but not always. So I've just die cut the circles from that front watercolour panel once it was completely dry, and then I'm just deciding which globes I wanted to use. So I just placed them on and had a look at which ones I thought fitted in the circles. Okay, just swapped them around in and out until I was happy with them and their placement. And then I knew I wanted to use that sentiment, so I just popped that on one of the circles and put it in my MISTI and stamped it with my Ink on 3 blackout ink. I pretty much always use my MISTI for stamping images and sentiments and things now. It's just such a great tool and I make so many less mistakes with it. I just love that I've got the mini MISTI and the normal size. So now I'm just adhering the wires behind the globes and trimming off the excess. So I'm just putting a bit of tape runner on the back, and then I'm joining up, because there was a little white gap, I just joined it up with a multi-liner so that it looked a bit more seamless. Then I just placed them where I thought I wanted them to go. Again, fiddling around a little bit. And then I was just showing you how easy it is to get the lights out of the packaging. You just sort of snap the plastic gently and they just remove quite easily from the packaging. And that little piece of paper comes out to make the battery connect. You could leave that paper in for the posting and just put a little pull out, you know, when for the recipient when they get it, if you wanted to stop the batteries from, I guess, turning on and off while it was going through the post. And then I was just deciding where my pieces needed to go and the little switch wanted to sit. So I just trimmed my front piece to the size it needed to be to sit on the front of a white card base. And then I was just putting my lights on to make sure it was going to fit and sit right, and where I was going to actually place my little on switch. And then I also wanted the 3-pack of lights as well as the halo light, and I wanted them all to work together. So I knew I just needed those switches really close so that when you pressed on the front panel, it would press both of them down at the same time. So now I'm just adhering that, the one with the 3 lights onto the halo light, and then it's going to sit behind like so. Just making sure it all worked and it was going to work how I wanted it to. So now I'm using some of the Heavy Doodle foam tape, which is really handy because it's just the right thickness to do one piece, I guess. If you're using normal foam tape, it's not quite as thick as this, and you often need 2 layers and it just ends up looking really messy and fiddly. So I just use my Heavy Doodle foam tape just to lift it up away from all of the batteries and so on, and then remove the backing. I had to trim it a little bit because some of the foam tape was showing through. Just lining it up, making sure it was all hiding away behind that front piece, and then I just adhered that on. Then with my little switch, I just used my Heavy Doodle Interactively Yours stamp set to stamp a press here, and then I adhered my switch to the front of the card. Now I'm going to punch a hole in where I wanted the globes to have the light shining through. So just using a small circle punch to punch holes in it. And then I'm going to put a bit of adhesive on the back and put a little bit of vellum over them so that it just gives it a little neat look. Now I had to find out how to place my lights, and I just wanted to keep the wires out of the way. So I'm just using some double-sided tape there just to keep the wires secure and at the back. Now you don't need to worry about how they look at this point because you're not going to see this part of the card. So I just sort of sometimes wind it around my finger and stick it down with double-sided tape on the back of the card. And then I just want those little lights to really sit behind the holes that I've punched and the vellum that's there. So I just made sure they were sat right and then attached them with some double-sided tape again, right behind that little light hole that I'd made. Once they were all in place, then I just had to go around with a bit more of my 3D foam around the edge of the card, and then taking all the backing pieces off. And then I lined it up onto the front of the card base. You can see I've used some of my heavy memo tape just to keep the circles in place before I push them down and adhere them to the front of the card. So they were sitting flat on the front of the card just to give it a bit of dimension. And then I was just working out where to put my sentiment and making sure the lights worked okay. And because it's watercolour card, I just used double-sided tape on this, and because it has a tendency to buckle a little bit, I made sure I just covered the back really well with quite a bit of double-sided tape just so that it sat really nice and flat when I adhered it down. And then just adhering that one in, making sure it's straight. And that's how the card works. So I hope you enjoyed it and that it might give you some ideas for using your easy lights, or if you haven't tried them, you definitely need to because they're so great to use. So simple. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.